Okay, back in '85 I got this amazing compilation LP and I tried to assemble all the songs onto a Spotify playlist, and I want to play some of them now, and I want to tell you some stories about those songs. And this album looked like this. Speed Kills One, the very best in speed metal. I had no idea what speed metal was, but it sounded very, very exciting. So when I heard this song, it's basically Possessed, Pentagram, the first song on the B-side, and it opened like this, and I was like 13. I'm thinking, what the fuck is this? That's Possessed. So basically, when this song came out, this was to me the first time I ever heard something that would sound like death metal, and it was at the time no genre called death metal. It was only Possessed naming their music death metal, and very, very intense sound, and the guitars sounded like nothing else. The voice was haunting, and I was sold right away. And when we recorded our album in 2019, I got the pleasure of getting to know Mr. Jeff Becerra, the singer of Possessed, and he basically joined what is our song number 2 on the album called Circle of Morbidity. So it's full circle for me that he joined our album. Another band on this one, which was very exciting to me and it sounded like nothing else, was the band Voivod. And I'll play you the song, which is the first song I heard from Voivod. It's called War and Pain. And on the back of the album it says War and Pain, raw but total death, lower F-O-A-D. I had no idea what F-O-A-D was. And a little bit later I learned it's fuck off and die. F-O-A-D. And I named a small one-man band project I had F-O-D at the time. Fuck off and die. Basically this band sounded to me like the apocalypse. It sounded like something that would come out of nuclear war or something, and it always stood out as a very strange and different band. And loved them to bits. This was very confusing to me. I heard this and then comes into this downfall of rhythms and guitars. You know, back in the day when you listened to stuff like this, you had no idea how they played it. There was no YouTube, so you just would imagine these guys running around in a room doing this. And all this going back and forward in this verse, it made me like, okay, you can write songs like that too. So I was very inspired by Voivod, obviously. Another band, I mean this one has the obvious bands too. It has Venom, Slayer and Metallica, and obviously they are very important to the history of black death and thrash metal. But I wanted to tell you stories about some other bands, and the last band on this disc is called Celtic Frost. The song on this album is actually Into the Crypto Race, but the one song I decided to dig out of their archives for this purpose is called Return to the Eve, and it sounds like this. That's it. All the time. Right! Yeah, right! Celtic Frost always came out with different sayings like that, so anyone that had listened to them would say ooh, and that means Celtic Frost, and everybody else would be like, what the fuck is he saying, you know? So one of those internal things. And this is really cool. It's more rocky, this one. More normal, so to speak, than the other two. There's many things I could say about Celtic Frost, but obviously 2006-07 stands out for me personally, because then they called me to join them on their comeback tour as their live guitarist, and because of Celtic Frost and their call to me, I basically came back to metal full on and never looked back, and I can thank them for where I am today, basically. And Celtic Frost, always very haunting, always very important. This song, Return to the Eve, was not originally on their repertoire for their comeback tour, and I convinced them to add the song into the set because I thought it was one of the more important songs, and I had the pleasure to play it live. So, the fourth song I'm gonna talk about on this compilation is also on this LP, and it's Exodus with A Lesson in Violence. One thing with Exodus is the vocals. If you got something to say, then come my way. And his way of pronouncing things and spitting them out is very inspiring. Of course, A Lesson in Violence sounds very interesting to a small kid, and at the time I was listening to this album again and again and again, and A Lesson in Violence with Exodus was one of the faster tracks on this one, and I could not imagine people playing that fast and tight. It was just like, wow, you know. Before this album came out, the heaviest thing I had heard was possibly Judas Priest. So all these bands just came out with a very personal sound, very different from each other, and I had no idea that it would make such an impact on me. And to me, obviously this was all speed metal, and later speed metal was divided into thrash, death, black, but at this time everything was kind of together, so it's like the mothership of all this music. And this album had a second version, the coming of Speed Kills 2. And on this Speed Kills 2 album, there's a song which really formed me and told me something very important in life, and that was you could play this kind of music even if you were not that good, because at the time all these bands sounded very, very professional. And then Sodom came out with Sepulchral Voice. There's just something about Sodom that's really important for the people who listened to them when they came out. I think if you play this for kids now, they will think it's very strange. It sounds really strange, and it sounds like people not really knowing what they're doing, and possibly they are, you know, the whole thing is just like very, very different. It's German thrash metal, and it's very important for the scene that was to become the Norwegian black metal scene, this band. Everybody listen to Sodom. And if you listen to how they structure the riffs and how they try to play together, it just sounds like it's falling apart. So when we heard that, when we were like 13, 15, 14, we just thought, okay, we can do this. Basically, we don't need to be totally professional, we can just try to play together and play as fast as we can. It will probably sound like this.
The light of existence connected the epitaph of
very confusing. chorus is great. I mean, they play cool too. They're so different from all these American bands. Celtic Frost being from Switzerland, of course, but everybody else is from America, and they sounded so mature and together. But Sodom sounds like some possessed little kids doing something strange. So that's the last song I will talk about is another German band, Kreator, which always was a little bit better than everybody else from Germany. Still are. And they released a song called Flag of Hate, and we would listen to that song a lot. And I think we stole parts of some of the riffs into something we did, but I don't remember what song, but Kreator sound like this. It's more together like the American bands. But the English is very German sounding, which is kind of cool too. Remember, this is the mid-80s, nobody knew how to say anything. They say all, like really German, and they have this incredible way to say death in German called des. So Kreator had a song called Total Death, and it was very liberating for us from Norway because we also have a strong accent, and we could just, you know, these bands just told us to do what the fuck we want, and that's what we did. So enjoy the old school playlist, and I will talk more about more songs if you like later.